There's pitifully few things in this game that do psychic damage. We just did the top 10 psychic damaging spells. That's for players. Monsters are not doing psychic damage nearly the same level, and even if they are, you don't want to spend your 8th level spell slot on a silver bullet for one of the myriad of spells that they have at their disposal to do different kinds of damage. There's not any like big psychic breath that you need to get immunity for that you'd be happy seeing an 8th level slot into. It's just a waste of a spell slot 99% of the time. It's an F. It's a castable trash. I think for its cost, it is easily the worst Abjuration spell in the game.
Hello, friends. Robert Bevan here, author of the Caverns Creatures series of comedy, fantasy novels, and short stories. With me is Sam West, and today we're breaking down our picks for the top 5 and one worst Abjuration Spells in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition.
Just out of all of them. Just every single one.
Yeah.
Every school, or every level, every class, all the Abjuration spells. What are the 5 best?
Yeah, we could have gone by level or by class or something, but that'd be a lot.
It would be a ton. Way more than we need to.
Yes. I'm pretty... I originally intended to do top 10, but I was like kind of struggling to get 10 that I cared about for Abjuration. So I think this will do top 5 and one worst. That's kind of our thing now.
True. Might have some honorable mentions. Maybe we'll disagree on some things. Who knows? Only one way to find out, though.
All right. I've taken a step. I've grown. I actually ordered mine.
Oh my goodness, that's so exciting.
Yeah.
You love to hear it. If you're here because you're playing an Abjurer, by the way, yeah, these are going to be all bangers for you. Arcane Ward gets juiced by all of these. So.
All right. Do you want to go first?
Sure. My number 5. And it's honestly lower than I thought it was going to end up, but it is really good. It's first level. It's a reaction. I put Absorb Elements as my 5th best Abjuration spell.
Man,
it's tight.
This hurts. Absorb Elements made my top 10. It did not make my top 5.
I think we're gonna have a lot that are like that in these last few brackets. This one I was like, do I put this other one on or do I make room for Absorb Elements? And my reasoning favored spells that more characters can take, which usually means they were preferenced heavily towards low-level, effective, powerful reactions. That's Absorb Elements.
It did hurt me to erase Absorb Elements from my list, though.
Yeah. It's a good one. It's really just... It's not a spell that you need at 1st level, or even like 3rd level, but at 6th, 7th level, yeah, I want this on my sheet, because it's a really easy place to put 1st level slots that has a huge impact on the Yakubo fight.
And it gets better with age.
It really does. The more the damage is coming, the more this is effective. If you're having a ancient red dragon's breath, that's way more effective than having a young red dragon's breath. So like, and it costs you the same resource every time, except it gets comparatively cheaper as the game progresses and you get more and more bigger resources. It's a fantastic little spell.
Cheaper and more effective. That's...
Yes. Not like an every encounter kind of thing though, which is why it's so low on the list, but it's like when you want it, it's amazing. So. All right. That's my number 5.
My number 5 was Death Ward.
Death Ward did not make my top 10 even.
Wow. I'm a sucker for things that give me one chance to do something incredibly irresponsible.
Sure, that is what Death Ward does do sometimes. Sometimes there will be other instances where you'll just be like, all right, it's 3 attacks. I go down on the first one, and then I have my Death Ward procs, and it just smiles and hits me again. I guarantee go down again, right? Oh, there goes my 4th level slot.
Yes.
I do think there's one. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it's still irresponsible, and I still might pay the consequence. But
what I think it has going in its favor is its duration is really long, which means there's a lot of cheese for getting it to stick around for a while between like extended spell, warlock, spellcasting it. Like there are a couple warlock subclasses, undying and undead. Those 2 options get it, and you can like cast it, then short rest, and then get your slots back, and you still have 7 hours of Death Ward. It's kind of cute, right? And when it's free like that, it is like, oh yeah, why not? Why not take an extra hit to go down? But I don't love spending 4th level slots on it. That's just me, though.
All right, what's your number 4?
I picked Pass Without Trace. I see the thing cast a lot, and I'm always happy whenever it's cast.
Yes, it does what it's supposed to do, and that thing is cool.
Plus, then is... No, go ahead.
That made my list. I think where did I put that? I put that at number 2.
Number 2, that's fair.
Yeah.
It's definitely the kind of thing where it is pretty easy to cast Adventure to Adventure. I have a really hard time imagining a table where you won't find times where you want someone to cast Path Without Trace. It stacks with advantage, which is great, so you get plus 10 to stealth checks if you get advantage on those. It's just like the rogue is getting mid-40s. It's not hard to see expertise characters rolling absurdly high numbers when you stack a Path Without Trace on top of it. I like it that it's a Druid Ranger spell. Both of classes make great use from it. Overall, just an effective, awesome little infiltration tool that the party will like you having.
My number 4 was also something that I chose because it stacks with a different kind of mechanic. I picked Aid.
Aid also was in my, it breached my top 10, did not make my top 5.
But yeah, that is the reason it made my top 5, is that it can stack with things like temporary hit points and stuff.
Yeah. I've never been the highest on Aid, but the reality of the game is you don't end up spending all your spell slots, and that's a really easy place to spend some extra spell slots, is just, oh yeah, have some hit points. All right, great. We all start with, I'll use 2/3 level slots, all of a sudden the whole party gets plus 15 HP, and that's just fine for an adventure.
Yeah. Got nothing much more to say about it, though. And, the stacking is what appeals to me.
Oh, it's giant swath of hit points. You got your high level Aid cast into the biggest chunk of armor back this you can get. You just have the thickest warlock you've ever seen. Just 500 hit points of warlock goodness.
All right, what's number 3?
My number 3 is Banishment. I've really thought Banishment would be a conjuration spell because it's like the inverted conjuration, right? It's like
Yeah, that made my top 10. Didn't make my top 5, but I was surprised to see it on the Abjuration list.
Yeah, I think the reason it breaks my top 5 and gets the 3rd slot is because the upcast is really backbreaking. Casting 3 banishment targets for a 6th level spell is as good as some 9th level spells. And it's just like 3 things are gone, half the fight is over. Great. We can now like kind of dissect this and have this fight happen in halves, basically. It's a nightmare to balance around banishments whenever things fail saves. It also feels terrible whenever things pass your saves. You're like, oh, well, there goes my 5th level slot and nothing happened. But the actual, like, the raw power that is, I don't have to fight this for the next minute is really, really good.
Yeah, the upcasting, it probably deserved its spot in my top 5. I weighed these with how like effective and interesting they were to me.
I will give you this. I don't think this is that interesting. So you got that over it. I would, if it were up to me, I probably wouldn't print Banishment into the next edition of the game. I just don't think it. I don't think it's serving a noble enough purpose.
That would be an unpopular decision, I think.
Yeah, people like their powerful spells, and this is a powerful one.
Yeah.
It's also, it just leads to so many feels bad moments from, like, if I cast this, though, right? If, as a player, if I cast a spell and nothing happens, I go, wow, there goes a huge resource for nothing. Feels bad, man.
Yeah.
I don't like Saber Dice for this reason, but it's fine. That's my number 3. What's yours?
I didn't want to put Counterspell and Dispel Magic on the same list. I chose Counterspell.
The right choice.
Primarily because it's a reaction. I like uses for my reaction.
Yeah, the difference between having to spend an action ending an effect and a reaction to prevent an effect occurring outright, massive difference. The nice thing about...
I mean, Dispel Magic, though, it doesn't have to be countering a harmful effect. You could dispel, any kind of effect you want.
Yeah, that's what I think Dispel Magic is going for. It is long duration effects that have been around for a while. That's where it shines. Counterspell never can deal with those. So, like, technically Dispel Magic can answer some of the problems Counterspell does and has some extras, but it doesn't do it to the same level of efficiency that Counterspell does.
Right.
Like, Dispel Magic can't stop a fireball. It can't stop a cloud kill. It can't stop a circle of death, right? It's dead. It's not happening. The spell is not hitting the table. You can upcast it to get rid of the most powerful things. It's why it's my number 2. It's just like a really efficient game warping kind of effect. It's the kind of spell that if you're at a table that is playing a lot of spellcasters, it becomes kind of centered around what is happening with counterspells. Counterspell becomes a really huge component of gameplay to a kind of obnoxious degree, if we're going to be honest.
All right. Well, I guess we got your number 2 and we got my number 2. So I guess we're skipping on to number 1.
Oh, we just blitzed right through this. And I think both of them have the exact same number 1. I can't imagine Shield didn't make your list.
It's Shield.
Yeah. It was a toss-up for me between Counterspell and Shield. But then I remembered that Shield costs the 1st level slot, and it was a lot easier. because it's so easy to get +5 AC. It lasts the whole round, and you only have to use it whenever you know you need it. It's just, oh, it's so good. It's the kind of abjuration spell where like characters will multi-class to get access to it. Like it's that powerful of an effect.
Yeah, shield is probably what should have been thinking about with death when I was thinking about death ward. Just something to let me do some wildly irresponsible thing.
Yeah, it'll cost you a first level slot and can block all those hits because it applies the
Yes.
AC bump to all those hits, which is a pretty
But
large
I mean,
difference.
if I'm just getting beat on, with claws or something, it's not going to save me from fireball.
True. Death ward. I imagine most of the damage a character is taking is coming from attack rolls, but there'll be some niche encounters where that's not the case, and then all of a sudden Death ward will look better than shield. You heard it here first. Death ward can be better than shield. That's crazy.
Anything could be better, and if you're drowning, then water breathing is better than shield.
True. Shield does nothing to help you from drowning. That's a great point. Yeah, viewers at home, it's hard to encapsulate just how effective shield is at its job, just because in level like 1, 2, it doesn't look that great. The moment you hit 3rd level and you have any slots to spare, all of a sudden blocking 1 or 2 attacks outright becomes incredibly powerful. It keeps you up longer. You don't have to invest defensive resources into things. You can just be like, I don't really need armor, because in the worst case scenario, I can fire off this shield. Now, it does stack with armor, which is super obnoxious. It's why you can have paladins with shields with an ACs in the 30s. You could have, what are they called? Armorers with obnoxiously high consistent AC, thanks to shield. It becomes very powerful in the low tiers. And then you get to the mid tiers and it just gets better and better and better because the first level slots are like, oh, I just have 4 uses of shield is what my first level slots actually read as. And then you're just, anytime you would need to have +5 AC, you have it, which will end up being in the 1 or 2 encounters per long rest every time you're attacked. And that it just starts becoming obnoxious to deal with characters that have very high AC. It's a whole powerful.
And by that point, you might have boosted your dexterity. You might have gotten access to better or magic armor or something. That +5 is +5 on top of hopefully an already higher armor class.
Yeah.
All for
it's
a level
obnoxious.
1 slot. Yes.
Yeah. It's really bizarre to me that like this made #1 mage armor doesn't crack our top 10s, I'm betting. Maybe crack your top 10,
mage
but
armor
like it's
got
close.
My top 10, yeah.
I was really stretching towards the end of trying to find 10 that I was like, what were 10 good ones worth talking about? And I'm like, mage armor? Really?
Yeah. It got there for me.
Yeah, turns out +5 AC when you need it is better than +3 AC always. Yeah, it's usually true. Less than +3 AC even, but yeah, it's really good.
All right, and that brings us to the part of the video where we pick the worst.
I think there's literally 2 options, and I'm okay with you saying either of these 2 options.
I wonder if because I picked one thinking, all right, I think I know which one he's gonna pick, so I'm gonna pick a different one. What? All right, I'll go first.
Okay.
I picked snare.
That's the one I just noticed. Like, okay, this could be the 3rd option you're allowed to pick. Yeah, snare is pretty awful. Snare is something you should be able to do mundanely. That they work to do a spell for some reason, then you lose your rope. That's your biggest grief with it.
Snare is the rope eater.
Yeah. And like best case scenario, something kind of gets like flung up into the air, but they have to step on in exactly 1 space, and you have to take a long time to set this up. And like you might just not fight where it is. It's not even a ritual spell. It's baffling how terrible Snare's design is. Like yes. I just don't want to play with it. It's not my worst, for the record.
It takes a minute to cast. Like, yeah, and it just covers like a 5-foot square. Is that right?
Yeah. If I were to like be a wizard that wanted to do a magical snare, I would snap my fingers and the rope should yoink them up, right? That's what should occur. That's not what occurs. You have to spend the minute setting up the snare to then snare it. Like, why is magic involved at all? What are we doing here?
Yeah, I mean, you can set up a regular snare in that time, and you get to keep the rope afterwards. And you didn't spend a slot.
And you can disguise it and place multiple down and do all kinds of cool stuff. Now, are there rules for that? Should there be? Yes. But there are not rules for that currently, so you have to figure that out on the fly. But
all right, well, what did you pick?
The Gate Seal's the runner-up. I didn't pick Gate Seal, but it is on here, and I wanted to mention that even if you're playing in Plane Chase, you probably shouldn't take it. Planescape. I always say it, the Magic the Gathering version instead. But the actual worth Abjuration spell in the game, because it costs an 8th level spell slot and gives you fat nothing, is Mind Blank.
Oh,
Do you know
now
what Mind Blank
I thought,
does?
well, you just spoiled it. Thanks. Big fat nothing. But I thought you were going to go for Blade Ward.
Blade Ward is bad. There are options in this game that get it as a bonus action, so it can't be
Yeah.
the worst. It's also a cantrip, so I don't have to spend any resources on it. I just spent an
Yes,
8th level slot on Mind Blank, and I think I'd rather have spent my action using Blade Ward.
All right, remind us again. What does Mind Blank do?
8th level spell. One creature gets immunity to psychic damage, and anything that any effect that would sense its emotions or read its thoughts, divination spells, and the charm condition automatically fail on it. It even foils the wish spell.
Whoa.
That's it. There's pitifully few things in this game that do psychic damage. We just did the top 10 psychic damaging spells. That's for players. Monsters are not doing psychic damage nearly the same level, and even if they are, you don't want to spend your 8th level spell slot on a silver bullet for one of the myriad of spells that they have at their disposal to do different kinds of damage. There's not any like big psychic breath that you need to get immunity for that you'd be happy sinking an 8th level slot into. It's just a waste of a spell slot 99% of the time. It's an F. It's a castable trash. I think for its cost, it is easily the worst Abjuration spell in the game.
Yeah, you make a solid argument, but the immunity to psychic damage isn't. Is that what people take it for, or is it the
If they
other
aren't,
stuff?
they shouldn't. And the other options are not better. So I don't know. I haven't taken it. I'm not a person that would take it, so I don't know the answer to that question. I don't know why people take it.
All right, good choice. Surprising choice. I did consider it, but no, I thought he's certainly going to go for Blade Ward. He famously hates Blade Ward.
I do. I famously hate spells, though.
That's true. All right, that was our abjuration list. Thank you, Sam, for being here. Thank you, everyone, for watching. I'm sure you have opinions on our selections, and you have your own choices. So let us know what your top 5 and 1 worst abjuration spells are, what you thought of our lists, and whatever else you want down in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.